Those paid agitators that Trump is always talking about, well, it turns out they were his. 1,900 pages of evidence in support of Jack Smith's immunity brief were released. Included in there was crucial evidence in terms of the funding of that January 6th rally, the funding of travel expenses for some of those January 6th protesters. What does that mean for him in terms of the immunity decision? What this means for him in terms of the election and the legal basis, Judge Chutkan had to release the documents now instead of waiting for after the election as Trump requested. Let's get into all of that. My name is Dina Doll with the MeidasTouch Network. Let's break it down. They say, follow the money. It's so important in this case because Jack Smith has to show that Trump's conduct does not have immunity under the Supreme Court July decision. And the Supreme Court July decision put the categories, 3 categories, and to determine whether or not Trump has immunity from prosecution. One is, was his conduct in Article 2 conduct complete immunity. The other one was it was official conduct, has a presumption of immunity, but that can be overcome by Jack Smith. And the third one was it was private conduct even while he was president, and so that has no immunity at all. So Jack Smith needs to show that his conduct on January 6th either was private or had this presumption of immunity, and he can get over the presumption of immunity. So how that January 6th rally was funded is crucial. Was he speaking there as president? That's Trump's defense. I was trying to make sure that the election was faithfully executed. That was part of my duties as president. Or was he speaking as a campaigner, as the candidate Trump, in which case it's a private conduct, even though he was president at the time. So the fact that the rally was funded by private money certainly helps Jack Smith try to show that this was private conduct and that the prosecution against Trump in relation to January 6th should move forward. So let me just read from the reporting that we now see related to how that rally was funded based on the documents that came out today. So $1 million was spent by Turning Point Action. That's the nonprofit group conservative Charlie Kirk started. This extremist Charlie Kirk spent $1 million, and it was earmarked for having them deploy social media influence and students around the country to attend the rally, paying for people trying to get them to the rally. Another $500,000 was spent by the group Save the U.S. Senate, that was founded by Donald Trump Jr. And their investment, it shows, would help support attendance. Again, paying people to show up to that rally. It shows that $400,000 was spent by Tea Party Express in order to create a website to promote the rally events, targeting ads in order to promote the rally and to encourage attendance. Basically, this was a campaign event. They were paying people to go there. They were paying for ads, encouraging people to go there. This wasn't some sort of just like groundswell movement of people showing up and supporting him. $200,000 was budgeted to a company that the name is still redacted. And that was, they were meant to pay for the cost of hotels, private flights, car services, and private security for about 10 to 15 of its members. And $300,000 was budgeted for speaker fees and travel for VIP speakers and a busing program to bring in rally goers within a 180-mile radius. So these weren't just people motivated to show up. These were people who were getting paid travel expenses to show up. Not so much a grassroots effort, but a paid effort to get people to show up. Just like evidently he's doing with his rallies, and people are leaving early because they're getting paid. I mean, who knows? But he's certainly done this in the past, the most destructive rally ever, turning into an insurrection on our Capitol with paid people going. So this is hugely important for our election. People are deciding whether or not to vote for this man who helped pay for people to show up and storm our Capitol. But also it's very helpful for Jack Smith to show that this was private conduct, private money, getting people. It was a campaign event. They were paying people to show up, showing support, paying this campaign event. And so this was not a presidential action, but a private action. And we have seen already a lawsuit around this same rally, also Capitol police officers who were injured have sued Trump and others. And Trump tried to dismiss it then, saying that this should be dismissed because as president, I can't be sued. And the Court of Appeals, even the one Trump appointed judge who's very extremist, said, we cannot dismiss this because the fact that it was paid by private money, then it's not by law and official conduct. So the money that was paid to the rally goers and to sponsor the event is going to be very helpful for Jack Smith to prove that this was private conduct and that some of these charges at least should move forward, just as that civil suit is moving forward as well. Civil suits take a lot longer, so it's going to be even longer through the courts when we start to get more evidence coming out in that civil suit. And then let's talk about Judge Chutkan's release of these documents. Even though Trump tried to delay it, he wanted it to be delayed until November 14th, saying that releasing the documents now would be election interference. And her response was that delaying the release of documents would be election interference because, one, we have a public court system. Any filings are made public by nature. That is our public court system. And deviating from the schedule, she's just doing a typical schedule like she would with any criminal case in terms of the motion and the reply and the release of the attaching exhibits. Delaying that would be the interference of an election. She is just doing what she would do in any typical case. Deviating it from an election is election interference. And she has the Supreme Court on her side in that respect, because the Supreme Court did not take the election into consideration when it failed to fast track its own immunity decision, when it released that immunity decision, perhaps the latest day that it could have. It didn't take into consideration the fact that the election was just around the corner. They could have sped it up just as they did with the Colorado ballot election question, which, if you remember, Colorado was trying to not have Trump be on the ballot because he participated in the insurrection. The Supreme Court took that up really quickly, issued their opinion very quickly, because they were trying to have it be resolved before the Colorado primary election. But they didn't do that in relation to this case, even though they knew that the November election was around the corner. If they were trying to deviate from their schedule in relation to the election, they would have taken up that case a lot sooner. They would have heard oral arguments a lot sooner. They would have made the decision a lot sooner. So for anybody, Trump and others, who try to say that Judge Chutkan, following regular standard procedure when she released these documents, can point to the Supreme Court and say, hey, the Supreme Court, they followed their regular procedure and didn't deviate it from it either, based on the election. So she is in good company there. And so these documents coming out are strong, not only for Jack Smith in trying to prove that his actions are private because of the fact that all of this private money, this was essentially a campaign event, but the stunning revelations that not only were the stage funded by the campaign, the ads, et cetera, but people's travel expenses were paid for. A lot of these people who ended up injuring Capitol officers, calling for the death of the vice president, paid for with these Trump supporting organizations. Certainly information that voters should have a right to know before they go to the polls in November.
Real quick, Meta just changed their algorithm to suppress political content. Please follow our Instagram @MeidasTouch right now as we head towards 400,000 followers so you don't miss a beat.